Want to be a guest on more podcasts? I'll show you how. I get this question a lot, how to get guest spots on podcasts as a podcast host. It's actually really, really easy. There are 3 things to make sure you're sort of keeping up with when pitching. Number 1, make sure you have heard the show before. I always really try and listen to at least a few episodes of a show, and I also review their list. So you can either do this in iTunes, or if they have, for example, if you go to hitthemic.com, you'll see a whole list of my past episodes. So you can sort of review the titles, kind of see what I've covered. So I always really make sure that I have a feel for the show before I pitch, because that way I can craft a pitch specific to their show. Number 2 actually ties in with that. Craft a pitch specific to their show. So as a host, I get a lot of form letters. I get a lot of like, I sent this to 900 other people, and I understand you're busy, and I'm all about sort of the stuff that can be duplicate, block content, your bio, this is kind of what I want to talk about. But make sure you're crafting the pieces around it. You're personalizing the message to me, because that's where the connection's going to come in, and that's where I'm going to be invested in having you on the show. Make sure you're not just sending a form letter to 1 million people and trying to get on shows. Customize it for specific shows. It takes a little longer, but you'll see a much better conversion for yeses. Number 3, if they have a form, use the form. I know, it's crazy. A lot of podcast hosts actually have forms where guests can submit to be on the show. So that way I can get sort of a really clear funnel. Those actually go into a very specific folder in my inbox so that I can deal with that when I deal with podcast stuff. Also, I can get information I want very quickly. I can get information about like what you want to talk about, your website, your name, things like that. So I can really get a clear look at who you are from that form. Don't go around the form. Don't try and send me an email on your own. Don't send me a Facebook message. Don't send me a Hangout, carrier pigeon. Use the form. The form is there for a reason. It really does come down to those simple things. Be familiar with the show, craft a personalized pitch, and of course, use the pitching method they want you to use. When you are pitching these things, if you follow those 3 steps, you're not going to get a yes every time. Sometimes you're just not a fit for a show, but you'll get a lot more yeses than you would if you ignore any of these things. So here's what I want you to do now. I want to challenge you to put it on your calendar to start pitching shows regularly, because you're never going to get all yeses. I try and spend time about twice a month pitching hosts and pitching myself for guest spots, blog posts, all of these things. That way I sort of have myself accountable to my calendar to actually do this stuff, all right? Follow the formula like I gave you, or the 3 steps I gave you, and of course, just keep asking, all right? That is a good way to get you on more shows. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Of course, subscribe to the channel, and of course, I would love to see you in the comments below. Go ahead and leave me a comment. I wanna know what it is you are going to do to get yourself on more shows. Is it scheduling regular time? Is it adjusting how you're pitching? What are you going to do? That's a good question for today. All right, thanks for watching again. I will see you guys next time. What I suggest is making sure very early you're clear on what your rules are and what the expectations are for the group. Now, having rules does not mean it needs to become a police state, and does not mean that it's